This is it, ladies and gentlemen. The Sonic the Hedgehog movie is finally out, and I'm sure, as you've heard by now, it has become quite the success. It has had the biggest opening for a video game movie ever, grossing more than even Birds of Prey. And critics, people all over the world, are touting this as the greatest video game movie ever made, which is a nice thing to say, but when you think about it, that's not a very high bar to reach, unfortunately. Video game movies do not have a very good track record. I mean, if you're like me and you were around when the original Super Mario Brothers movie came out, you remember that video game movies are not very good, unless you count Wreck-It Ralph. Wreck-It Ralph was awesome, but I will say this was a very good movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I, like most people, were horrified when the original Sonic the Hedgehog design was revealed just about a year ago, and the internet collectively shit itself. The response from Paramount was what really spurred me to go see this film. For them to say, okay, we hear you, we understand you don't like this design, we're going to fix it. That in and of itself made me go, huh, I think I'll go see this movie now just because you did that. That was really cool. And I'm really glad they did. And I'm really glad I went to go see this movie because I had a lot of fun with it. As I'm sure you know, this is another one of these films where we've got live action human being characters playing alongside CG animal characters, and I'm not a huge fan of that particular genre, but for it to do that with this film, it was pretty good. James Marsden, he's James Marsden. He's okay. Ben Schwartz, as the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog, does a phenomenal job. I love him to death just for that. And if I know Ben Schwartz originally from like BoJack Horseman. I know he was in Parks and Rec, and he's also the voice of one of the triplets on the new DuckTales reboot, which is a surprisingly good show. But moving back to Sonic the Hedgehog, everybody's talking about Jim Carrey because this is like the Jim Carrey that I grew up with. This is the Ace Ventura, the Mask, the Dumb and Dumber, just over the top, crazy Jim Carrey, but with a mustache. And I'm so glad that they actually call him Dr. Robotnik in this movie. That's always the last decade or so of Sonic games has kind of driven me crazy because it's like I've always been the one going, he's not Dr. Eggman, he's Dr. Robotnik. Yes, I know he was Dr. Eggman in Japan, but I grew up with the original Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Genesis, and I knew he was Dr. Robotnik. The film's plot is basically like a buddy road trip comedy kind of a movie where Sonic loses his rings. He has, his rings are like magic portals, which when I think about it, the original entrances to the special zones in the game, yeah, you had to jump through a ring to get to them. So I guess they've always had warp abilities. But he starts out on another planet as a baby, little Sonic, and he's super fast and has these powers, but has to run to escape these bad guys who want his powers for some reason, who want his ability to go fast. So he ends up on Earth. And 10 years later, he is, the Sonic the Hedgehog we know and love. He is fast talking. He won't stop talking. Good Lord. He's a little annoying. He's like a kid. He's like a kid who's had too much sugar. He's great. But he's unfortunately battling loneliness. He realizes that he is alone on this planet. All he can do is watch other people live their lives and pretend that they are with him and that he has family and friends, but in the end he's really just alone, and that's what causes him to eventually run so fast that he causes a massive blackout. His power surge causes a blackout, and of course the government has to get involved. They send in Dr. Robotnik to find him. So he's trying to escape through one of his portal rings and accidentally opens a portal to San Francisco, and the rest of his rings fall through. So he has to go to San Francisco to get his ring so he can get home. Or get to another planet. That's the plot of this movie. There are some great little nods and moments of, just different Easter eggs, you could say. There, at one point in the film, you actually hear like a kind of really nice piano rendition of the Green Hill Zone a song from the original Sonic the Hedgehog, and I actually got a little almost a little teary-eyed when I heard that, because that's one of the greatest pieces of video game music ever, in my opinion. Probably one of my biggest problems with this film is some of the blatant product placement that you see. It's insane. Like, you know, usually you can tell which card company has put a lot into making this movie or has given a lot of money to have their badge front and center. Because, yeah, the character Tom, played by James Marsden, he drives a brand new Toyota Tacoma. So, yeah, you've got the Toyota badge in a lot of shots. But it gets even worse because his character wants to move to San Francisco to become a real cop. He leave this little town he lives in. And that gives his wife the ability to say, oh, well, I've been looking at apartments on Zillow.com. And then the camera gets like a real clear shot of Zillow.com on her laptop screen. It's like, okay, that was bad. But then it gets even worse with the Olive Garden. Olive Garden must have had some kind of hand in making this film or financing this film, because at one point James Marsden says something about, yeah, the only apps I have on my phone are the ones that came with it. Oh, and the Olive Garden app. Because when you're there, you're family. I'm trying to think of the last time I saw that blatant of advertising and product placement. Probably not since the first Transformers movie when the Mountain Dew machine turned into a robot. Or the Xbox 360 turned into a robot. I mean, good Lord. But if the worst thing you can say about this movie is its product placement, that's still shockingly good. So that's really all I have to say about this film. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think anyone who loves Sonic the Hedgehog, anyone like me who grew up with Sonic the Hedgehog, would probably enjoy it too. So have you seen the Sonic the Hedgehog movie? If you have, let me know in the comments what you thought about it. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. If you enjoy podcasts, I do a podcast with a good friend of mine called Cinematic Blindspots. There will be a link in the description. And if anyone likes watching these reviews of mine, I will continue to make them. But until next time, you guys take care.